Welcome to Birds.Bees.Bodies, a Planned Parenthood of Southeast and North Florida podcast where we break barriers, tear down stigmas, and promote open discussions on sexual and reproductive health. Get the buzz on topics from puberty to menopause, contraception to conception. No topic is off limits. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into a judgment-free zone to promote sexual wellness. Welcome everyone to Birds.Bees.Bodies. We are rocking and rolling here in December with the holidays, the hustle and bustle, everything going on. We are excited to bring this podcast episode to you about mental health care during this time of the year. I'm Vice President of Communications, Michelle Quesada, and with me I have two of our incredible behavioral health guests who've been, are not strangers to this podcast. They've been on here before. Janet and Trey, welcome. We'd love for you to give a little background about yourselves before we get started.
It's great to be back. Thank you for inviting us and including us again. I always love joining you, Michelle, on these podcasts. My name is Janet Santiago. I am the Behavioral Health Program Director. I've been with our affiliate for a couple of years now, just working with a great team and providing services in mental health to our communities.
And I'm Trey. I'm glad to be back. Super exciting. One of my biggest bragging point is being on a podcast. So thank you. I get to add more episodes. I am a behavioral health counselor here with Planned Parenthood. The last time I was here, I was actually an intern in school. So now I've been brought on full time, providing services both in groups and individually.
And yes, I should have said this in the beginning, but I know most of you are veterans of our podcast already, right? We're with Planned Parenthood of Southeast and North Florida. And, we talk about all things reproductive health care, mental health care, reproductive rights on this podcast, sex education, everything, you name it. And today we're talking about mental health care because we know mental health care is important year round. But during this time of year, things get a little wild, right? Like there's a lot of stressors that happen around this time of year that may surface and bring out the best in us sometimes and maybe the worst in us. So maybe we should start there and talk a little bit about what is it about the holiday season, right? No matter what holiday you celebrate or if you don't celebrate at all, what is it about this season that kind of adds to the anxiety, tension, stress, some of these symptoms you might feel where you need to take care of yourself and maybe have a mental health day or mental health period.
The holidays are a time that a lot of people connect with, like joy and connection and celebration. And yet at the same time, it can really trigger a lot of intense emotions because of things like, family dynamics, financial stress that's put on holidays, high expectations, wanting things to go perfectly, or even past traumas, things, surrounding the holidays, grief. Maybe you have a loved one that's passed away and now they're not here this holiday season. So there's a lot of different triggers that can affect the way that we are feeling and experiencing the holidays. It's also a time when our routines change. There's the hustle and bustle. We've got events. So if you're someone who's used to routines and you've got specific coping strategies to kind of get you through a day, all of a sudden your routine's thrown off for a period of weeks, months, sometimes. There can be a lot of pressure to be happy all the time. So it's very intense season. It's definitely can be joyful, but it can be stress-filled and a lot of pressure.
Yeah, not to mention the financial stressors, right? Like you put so much financial expectations on yourself to make the season perfect or decorate your home or invite guests or have dinners. And that's stressful too, because for like the entire year you budget and then this end of the year comes along. And as much as we try to budget for it, right? It's not always perfect.
Right. I think Janet hit on my two big spots, which are, it's a big time commitment. We're trying to see everyone's family. We're trying to see all of our friends. And then also those traditions bring up memories, and those memories can be good or bad, or they can bring about feelings of like grief because maybe lost family members used to participate in this and they're no longer here. So it brings up a lot and it's just strenuous on our bodies.
Those are really great points, Trey. And on the flip side, there's some people that don't have anyone to spend the holidays with, right? So there's that loneliness. There's, again, the grief. Grief is a big emotion that we tend to see around the holidays. That tends to get triggered quite a bit around the holidays.
Plus, I think both of you kind of touched on this too, like the tension of being around or being kind of like put in these positions where you're around family members more than usual.
Yeah.
These dinner conversations that pop up that maybe you're trying to avoid, or whether you're on different aisles of politics, right, or whether you want to pry into your personal life and you're just like, no, don't want to go there.
Right.
So much anxiety that comes
Mhm.
around. So like we know this happens every year. I feel like, for the most part, people are aware that during this time of year things change for you. You might feel a little different. How do you know this is affecting you though? Like I already know I brace myself every time, we're getting close to the holidays, like, okay, like I'm gonna have the budget, like my kid's not gonna be on a good sleeping schedule, like we know this. But like how do you know that it's now affecting you?
One of the biggest things I always tell people when we look at things affecting us, one, trust your gut. You know when you feel off, whether it's physically or even mentally. You've noticed that your house isn't being kept up the way you normally do. Your tasks at work aren't being kept up. We can feel when I call it the internal, our internal like top is kind of off kilter when we're kind of spinning kind of wildly. We can feel that. So a big thing is to actually just trust your gut.
Like your compass is off, like you're
Yeah,
not sure
Yeah.
which direction you're going in.
right.
Jenny, anything you want to add to that?
Absolutely. Some of the symptoms that we can look out for are changes in sleep patterns. Either you're not able to sleep because your mind's racing and now you've got insomnia, you can't fall asleep, or you're waking up in the middle of the night, or the opposite. It's so overwhelming that you just freeze and you can't really function, so you spend a lot of time sleeping. There may be more irritability, right? More snappiness, just more frustration, more sadness. So there may be an air of sadness to them. Be, they start to, someone who's struggling will start to withdraw from social activities because it can feel overwhelming. Aside from physical symptoms, because stress always brings physical symptoms. So if you're noticing headaches, stomach aches, back pain, again, difficulty sleeping, even just all of a sudden breaking out on your skin. Like most people don't know that eczema is associated with anxiety and depression. So like skin issues are things to look out for. So there's many different symptoms to tell if you're being affected, but those are usually the main ones that people notice right away.
Some of those physical symptoms and even some of the other symptoms that you mentioned, can be very obvious in loved ones too. If you notice like family members, close family members around you, what other signs can you tell if someone that you love or someone that you live with or a friend of yours, someone you care about is struggling and you're starting to notice changes in them? Like what would you notice in this time period?
Well, I was going to say a big one was that isolation, like Janet said. It's that withdrawing from things. Maybe y'all go bowling a lot, and when you ask them if they want to go bowling, no, I really don't want to do that. They lose interest in those things that they love to do. Or a big thing also during the holidays, increase alcohol drinking. If we're drinking more than normal, even more than what's typical for the holidays, that may be a sign of, hey, maybe they're trying to cope with something that they're not really aware of.
Yeah, and that's so hard to tell, right, during the holidays because you probably do a little bit more social drinking. You
Yeah,
probably, are doing things. You're out and about, maybe doing things differently. But yeah, I mean, like kind of just catching on to those things and how it's affecting people. And so I guess the next obvious question is like, what do you do if like you notice that a loved one is struggling or someone you care about is struggling? Like, is it always a good idea to like approach them about it, or like how do you approach them about it? People can be very sensitive about that kind of stuff, and they might just chalk it up to like, well, it's the holiday season, like of course I'm gonna do this, or I'm not into this, etc.
Right. Well, that's a topic that has to be approached very gently, subtly, because you don't know how the person may react. And we don't want to assume, right, that it's because they're struggling and not just because they're trying to have a good time. But really, you want to look for any changes in norms, right? Like, as you said, there's increased drinking during the holidays, but is this person drinking fast and furiously? Like, does it seem like they're just trying to have a couple drinks and having a good time with us, or are they trying to get wasted so that they can disconnect, right? Or do they seem tense as they're drinking? Like it's just noticing a lot of body language is really the way that we can tell with our family. And then from there, trying to connect with them in a gentle and empathetic way, and privately, never in front of a group of others, never calling them out in front of people like, hey, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? What's going on? Because that's just going to put them on the defensive. But maybe, asking them to step aside when the moment's right, and calling them separately, like, hey, I've noticed something's been going on. Are you okay? Is there anything that I can do? Is there any way that I can be a support for you? And then trusting what they say, and respecting it, taking a step back and keeping an eye, never fully giving up on them, right? Just keeping an eye, but allowing them the autonomy to try to work through their emotions, with the knowledge and understanding that you'll be there if and when they want you there.
Yeah. And during the holidays, you mentioned earlier, Janet, that there's also the opposite of that, where someone may be lonely during the holidays and not have friends who are calling them, or family members who are near them or live near them, or maybe they don't talk to family members. How, at that point, like, do you knowingly, like, if you have someone like that in your life that is kind of isolated and not always around, should you make an extra effort to make them feel like they're included, or to check up on them? Like, what are some of the things that can be done? Because it could lead to so many, like, serious mental health crises.
Of course, reach out if you notice that someone is lonely, or they're not connecting with anybody in the holidays. Think about yourself. If you had no one to connect with during the holidays and you were kind of lonely, how would that make you feel? Reach out that empathetic hand and say, hey, come over. We're doing this thing. It's my crazy family. I don't know if you'll enjoy it, but come over. Have some food, have some drinks, have some fun, and just really reach out, and really understand that some people may not have anyone to go to, or they may not even consider that y'all are close enough to make that connection, and you could really make that person's whole holiday season.
Right. And one of the beautiful things that came out of COVID, I'm always trying to look for the wonderful things that come out of crises. But one of the beautiful things was that we learned ways to connect with people virtually, right? So you can schedule a holiday dinner with someone that's in a different state and just do it virtually, right? We can cook together. You cook on your end, I'll cook on my end. Let's eat together. Let's watch a movie together. Some connection is better than none. So making sure that you're reaching out to those, and kind of taking some time to self-reflect. Who are those people that maybe I've lost touch with in the last year and I haven't checked in on them? Life gets busy. We all get busy. So let me reach out to them, and see if they have anything going on this holiday season, and if there's a way that we can connect so that they're not alone.
Great idea. I love that virtual, like, cooking session together, or yeah, just kind of like taking some time to do a face-to-face call, and just kind of catch up. And I want to get to, we touched a little bit on, like, these are all things that, may happen to people year over year. Maybe it doesn't happen to you every year where you're stressed or experience these things. But then there are some serious, like, mental health concerns that can pop up. Especially around the holidays. And we've seen that with statistics nationwide. And, there's, more depression, more suicidal thoughts, anxiety, panic attacks, as you mentioned, substance abuse. What are some of those, like, crises that really need to be addressed? And how do you know, okay, like, this is something that we need to approach carefully, and how do you seek help for these things?
I think number one, we definitely want to self-reflect, and especially if we hear somebody saying they want to harm themselves, that's something we want to approach gently and also take very seriously, because these can be times with a lot of emotion tied to them, and we want to be sure to validate their feelings while also making sure we and other people are safe during this time.
Yeah, and depression is probably one of the main ones that stems during this time of year. Like, is there a way to get ahead of that, Janet? Like, is there a way to just kind of, that around this time of year you feel a little bit more sad than usual, and it could be, like you said, like, you lost a loved one that meant a lot to you, and you cherish them during the holidays, or just the season itself makes you feel a certain way.
Absolutely. Definitely, getting ahead of it is important, not waiting for the day to come and just however I feel, that's what I'm going to do that day. Make plans. If you know that that day is going to come up and it's difficult for you on a typical basis, plan things to keep your day busy so that you're not just sitting around thinking about it, right? And then on the flip side, we have to consider that we have our neurodivergent population as well that struggles with the sensory overload. So planning for that ahead of time, if you're going to be in a location that's going to be too loud, too crowded, weighted blankets or jackets are always nice, having headphones, having a plan to excuse yourself, maybe a safe word that you use with, your loved ones or your close ones, to let them know that this is too much and I just need to take a space for myself. Seeking professional help is always, useful, especially before the holiday season is in full swing, right? Because you can start problem solving some of these things. And you can join our support group and learn some of the calming and grounding techniques that we teach to assist with getting through these situations and regulating your central nervous system so that you can control whatever symptoms may come up, whether you're anxious or depressed.
I was gonna say that's a good point. I was actually going to speak on our groups for like our trans support group and our queer men support group. Right, the holidays can be very difficult for especially people in the LGBTQI plus community. Like you said, especially we go through everyone wants to talk about politics. We all have that uncle who wants to talk about politics. During the holidays, they usually never have our same opinions, and so we're almost feel combated, and we feel othered even more in a space that is supposed to be loving. So finding support during that time is really important. And I really want to emphasize that for like the queer community.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do want to touch on the more serious, and not that none of these are serious, they're all serious, but the suicidal thoughts part of this, because that's one that breaks my heart whenever I read situations of people after the fact who felt like so desperate in their time of need that they had these thoughts and thought they had no one to go to. And I always tell all of my friends and networks, like, I'd rather hear your story. I'd rather talk to you. I'd rather find, even if I can't help you, I will find a way to be there for you rather than attend a funeral or, you know what I mean, or deal with that type of tragedy in life. So like, for those, and there's obviously resources out there, 211 helpline, there's tons of resources. If you're someone who's experiencing this, what do you need to do? Like, how do you take action, or how do you help someone who's experiencing this?
Well, with suicidal thoughts, I mean, we don't take chances. You seek help immediately, right? And if you're not sure if it's to the level of needing help, err on the side of caution. Get it anyway, right? So you mentioned 211, that's a great helpline. There's also 988. 741 is a really good text line, because that's a line that you can just text with a crisis counselor or a professional on the other end. That may not necessarily result in you getting full on therapy or going to the hospital or anything, but you just have someone to talk to, and that can help you get through a momentary difficult emotion. Um, for loved ones, if you have someone that is making those kind of statements, or you're concerned they're thinking that way, reaching out to the local hospital, the local ER, they can get evaluated. The hospital can tell you if someone is severe enough that they need to be hospitalized for a longer period of time, or if they just need to be evaluated there in the emergency room. Maybe it's an anxiety thing, and they need some medication to help with the panic attack, and then they release them. Going to the ER does not always result in hospitalization. I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. So I really want to emphasize that the ER would be the first stop. They have professionals there that will assess and will help you figure out what the next step for you is. But you also have your text lines that can help to have someone just to talk to if that's all you need.
I do want to jump in about the resources. Also, remember for like our LGBTQI plus youth, there's the Trevor Project. It's great. They can talk, text it safely. And also there's the Trans Lifeline. So if you're a trans identifying person, non-binary, gender non-conforming, there are also very specific resources led to help.
Yeah, those are all great points. And I'm glad you mentioned the hospital situation, because that's the first thing you hear. Like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to be hospitalized. I don't want to be admitted. But there are ways to get help and help you through that moment without putting any more stress on the person, thinking that they're going to be forced to do something they don't want to do. And just, never take any chances. Like Janet said, like if you're listening to this podcast, like seek help immediately. That is not something that you want to wait around for, even if you notice a loved one experiencing these types of symptoms. So let's talk for a second about just I know we're already in the thick of it, right? But like so there's a lot of things that you could have done to prepare ahead of time. There's always counseling, like there's always help out there, there's always support groups, right? And they can help you even if it's like the day before you have a very stressful event happening.
Yeah.
So it's never too late for that. What are 5 tips you can do right now, even in the middle of everything, to improve your mental health this holiday season and even as you start a new year?
I always have to start with the most important one to me: set boundaries. Just set boundaries. No is a full sentence. Do not overcommit. Don't tell everyone, yes, I'll be there. Yes, I'll cook this. Yes, I'll do that, when you know that it's going to cause you stress. Um, it's okay to limit yourself to what you feel comfortable with, because the holidays are also for you. It's not just for everyone else. So you need to be able to enjoy them as well. So setting boundaries is always the first thing that comes to mind when I'm asked about tips.
Also, I really suggest setting realistic expectations for what's gonna happen this holiday season and what you can do. It's not very realistic to see every person on Earth, and every person during the holiday season. But prioritizing the people you really want to see and that you have time, and also like setting boundaries with cooking. Set realistic, attainable goals so you don't feel like you've failed or let anyone get down this season.
Maintaining healthy boundaries also goes along with maintaining healthy habits, right? It also goes along with reaching out to others. Like, these are all really important things that we should be doing on a regular basis, but more so during the holiday seasons, being more aware of them, because we can get roped into a lot of things and our habits fall to the side, and our goal to be financially responsible falls to the wayside because we really want to get this gift for someone. So healthy habits for sure. Making sure you're getting enough sleep, balanced eating, because during the holidays, we all have tons of food that we want to eat, right? So just making sure that we're not overdoing it. We're staying balanced with it. We're taking care of our body, getting plenty of exercise, staying hydrated, especially if you're drinking alcohol, making sure you're getting plenty of water. So those healthy habits will help you get through the season without, a major hangover afterwards.
Take time for you.
Take care of yourself. Like, do something to take care of you. Was that what you were going to say?
Yeah. I was going to say, take care of yourself. Take time for yourself. Like Janet said, this is also your holiday season.
Practicing self-compassion, making sure that if you are struggling with certain emotions that are coming up for you, that you're taking some time to reflect on them, to sit with them, to accept them, maybe journal about them, not dwelling on them or, stewing in it, but acknowledge it and accept that this emotion's being triggered for you. Because what I've seen a lot of times is people try to ignore it and they just try to go with it, and it just compounds and builds and builds. And then eventually there's an explosion, and no one wants that on, a holiday. So making sure that you're practicing that self-compassion, that self-care, taking time to reflect and acknowledge yourself as well. And then reaching out for support, right? If you need the support, reach out for support, whether it's a loved one or a professional. And, we are here for that, in any way that's comfortable, individual, group, however else you need that. But making sure that you have that support system in place is going to be really important.
I love that. So we got set boundaries. We had self-care, right? Taking care of yourself, healthy habits. We had seek help. And then there was a 5th one. What was the 5th one we mentioned?
Realistic expectations.
Realistic expectations. Yeah, I love that. Those are all good things. And I just want to put a plug because we do have a stellar behavioral health department at Planned Parenthood. Janet and Trey are part of this. They're counselors, and they're able to work with you. We offer talk therapy. We offer really any type of therapy that's conducive to your lifestyle. I mean, there's so many different types of treatments and therapies that we offer. Trauma support, support groups, ways to cope in life. I feel like people think, oh, when I sign up for therapy, I'm just spilling out my deepest, darkest secrets, or I'm just spilling out my emotions. No, that's not only what therapy is. Like, yes, you get to talk about those things if you want to, but it's really just about becoming a better version of yourself and being a version of yourself that you're happy with. And these two people on here help you do that. So I really want to put a shout out to you all. And if you want to learn more about our behavioral health program, go to ppsenfl.org. Check out our mental health care services under our services tab. We have all the information on there, information about our support groups. There's just so much great, and resources for the LGBTQ plus community, which is a fantastic. All of our therapists are inclusive, non-judgmental, and they are all basically a reflection of our communities. Like, you all bring something to the table that's diverse and is a reflection of our communities. So I'm so proud to work with you all. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. Any last thoughts you have, like, as we enter a new year? I know everybody says, oh, it's like new year, new me. Like, it doesn't have to be new you. It could just be a better you, right?
Love yourself. That's the main one. I hear a lot from my clients through the holiday seasons, how they judge themselves, they question themselves, they're hearing things from family. They may, see a family member that says, oh, you've gained weight, or you're not eating enough, or, when are you getting married, or why haven't you had kids yet?
Why are you still single? They ask all this.
Yes. There's enough judgment going around. Don't judge yourself. Just love yourself, accept yourself. You don't have to expose yourself to anything you don't want to. If the questions are intrusive, get up and walk away, that kind of thing. Just take care of yourself.
Yeah. I love the exit strategy that you mentioned earlier. Like, have your safe word, or just your, like, have a plan in place. Yep. If you need to leave and create an exit strategy, do it. I mean, it's all about caring for your mental health and protecting yourself. And we're not just about care, we're about connecting. So check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads. We're on all the platforms, all the cool places. Our handle is at ppscnfl. Have a wonderful rest of your holiday season. And even if you don't celebrate the holidays, do something nice for yourself. Just take care of yourself.